So it's November 2023. We've done a couple of videos now on carbon storage. Thought just take a step back and just have a look at the big picture. So here you can see an assessment of the carbon dioxide emissions worldwide in 2010. All these numbers are in millions of metric tons. Top of the list you can see China, and in the 11-year period they've jumped significantly. By far and away the biggest emitter of carbon dioxide. In second place, United States, India, Russia, Japan, Iran. You can see right down the list. And there, towards the bottom, you can see there's the United Kingdom. Basically gone from 512 million metric tons in 2010 down to an estimated 347 million metric tons. Now, some of this probably associated with the decline in oil production. Easy to achieve emissions reductions when your oil and gas industry is on a decline trajectory. So here's another graph showing annual carbon dioxide emissions worldwide from 1940 to 2022. Again, this one's in billions of metric tons. And you can see back here in round about 1940, around about 5 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emitted. And you can see a steady rise, a linear rise in fact. Here's the pandemic, but back on course. And here we are in 2021 at around about 37.5 billion metric tons. It's only going one way, and that's up in the foreseeable future. And of course, the UK contribution to this, well, it's pretty small, isn't it? Here's a pie chart of the global greenhouse gas emissions by gas. And of course, by far and away the biggest, carbon dioxide. Here 65% plus another 11% here. And of course, a lot of it's down to fossil fuel combustion. Yeah. We need that energy. We use a lot of it, both in power plants and power generation of electricity, but also in transportation. And we'll see that on a later graph. Numerous other sectors. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct of the petrochemical industry and also other chemical industries. You can see here under forestry and other land uses. We've got the change of land use, a lot of deforestation, and of course burning those forests not only puts more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, but it actually ends up removing one of the sources of carbon dioxide reduction, which of course is trees and plants. So soil degradation, all sorts of things. We've got mantle outgassings and also the cement and concrete industry all contributing carbon dioxide. As well as carbon dioxide, methane. Well, methane comes from a variety of sources. Some of it is emissions from the oil and gas industry, which is being worked on hard, and we'll look at that in a minute in North America. But also we've got methane emissions from biomass burning and from things like the unlocking from melting the permafrost. There's a lot of biogenic methane that is generated in nature. Nitrous oxides, well, again, coming from agricultural use, from fossil fuel contributions. Not a large piece of the pie here, but the fluorinated gases. Some of these compounds, and I won't run through them all here, they make a major contribution because though there's tiny amounts of them, they have a very significant impact on climate change or the greenhouse effect. So not to be underestimated as well. So we need to kind of be looking at this holistically and going after all of these areas. Here's the breakdown of global greenhouse gas emissions by the economic sector. Pause the video to have a look. Few areas that contribute significantly, but electricity and heat production and agriculture, forestry and other land use accounting for about half. Here's greenhouse gas emissions by sector. Busy slide. I suggest you pause the video and study this. It's 2016 data, and it's how the split of 49.4 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent is accounted for. You can see primarily it's energy, but within energy it's industrial, transport and buildings, and then we have subsets within there. So as I say, pause the video and have a look at this. Well, we're all familiar with the Just Stop Oil campaign group, but why just oil? Why not stop cement, transport? Why do we just stop everything? I mean, really? No, that's not going to work. And what about just stop coal? You know, it is the worst of the emitters and perhaps an area that can be tackled and replaced. And of course, as we transition, if we go from coal to oil, from oil to gas to renewables, we'll actually have a transition that society can both afford and is practical. This from the Canadian National Observer about methane emissions, and this is a plot that was in one of their publications recently. There's the reference down below, and you can see here's methane going out of control here, rising up at a huge rate. and it's methane in the atmosphere, and it's in parts per billion, and there's the numbers here. So it looks like it's raging out of control, and you ask yourself the question, is the atmosphere about to catch fire? Well, I had another look at this, and what you can see is if you actually, I've kind of eyeballed the values on here, and you see it's gone from this level here to this level here in around about 35 years. Kind of a different message to the one you see on this. And you see a lot of this in climate science and climate studies, is this outrage and this exaggeration by not really representing the data as honestly as perhaps you should. The scale here running from 0, which it should, rather than from here at 1,650 parts per billion. What does that amount to? I'm not used to parts per billion very much, but that's it in percentage, so it's not a huge amount. It wouldn't be right to say, well, it's insignificant. Yes, it is a very, very low number. And here's some data here from the National Observer. And again, this is showing the methane emissions throughout North America. And you can see Mexico's contribution here, the United States here, and of course, Canada's here. But this is oil and gas methane leaks per capita. Hang on a minute. What's the actual values? Because there's a lot fewer people in Canada than there are in the US and in Mexico, I suspect. I've no idea how representative or accurate these figures are. But let's say we double that value. Now we know that methane is sort of 85 times more impactful on the climate and global warming than carbon dioxide. So if you actually work that out as an equivalence, we're getting up to a sort of a fairly decent carbon dioxide equivalence. There's a lot of work ongoing to try and reduce these within the oil and gas industry, the production side, but also on the refining side and in the transportation and distribution side. This is being tackled, but I'd like to see this data actually sort of normalized by, well, how much is there? And if you look at some of these areas, they're not areas that are normally just associated with oil and gas activity. There are other industries as well and other sources of methane in these particular areas. Here was an article where back in May 2023, here's a new volcano which has been discovered in the Barents Sea, located here just north of Norway. And it's not a huge volcano, but it is, as you can see, an active emitter. And this is a new source of methane. Well, this hasn't been in anybody's model up until it was discovered earlier this year. How many more of these exist and have not yet been found in our deep oceans? Taking a quick look at the physics of energy, yes, we all know the formula there. Basically, energy enables work. It's light, it's heat, there's kinetic and potential, there's elastic energy, chemical energy, radiant energy, internal energy. Living organisms constantly take in and release energy. Just simply sitting down watching YouTube videos. It's using energy. Everybody needs it, everybody uses it, and there's no getting away from that. Taking a look at carbon capture and storage. Well, what is it? What it is waste management, that's all. I mean, we're trying to take a byproduct of the combustion process in the main from the fossil fuel industry, and basically capturing it. It's just like treating refuse and putting it into landfills. But here we're talking about sequestering and storing carbon dioxide underground, hopefully for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and possibly getting it locked in by some changes in the subsurface. It is going to be a regulated industry within the UK. That means that it's going to actually govern the rate of return, the amount of money that can be made, and the return that each operator will receive. And there'll be some kind of watchdog or administrator actually looking after that to make sure that the prices are kept reasonable so that the investors can make a return, but not a huge return. Currently, and principally oil and gas operators, they're using their drilling and production expertise. That's what's kind of driving the whole CCS. Many of the necessary technologies are coming from the oil and gas sector, and they are being utilized and looked at within the CCS, the carbon capture and storage industry. It's a budding industry. It's hardly got off the ground. Will shareholders be excited by a low rate of return? If it is a regulated industry, it's not going to make the massive returns that you can get in the sort of energy sector with oil and gas companies, for example. Is it just that these will be enough for shareholders? So here's a couple of projects here, CCS projects from the UK Southern North Sea sector. It's the Orion and Poseidon projects. Bit of detail there on these timelines here. Here's the award of the license in 2023. We've got a final investment decision, that's an FID, and then we start up on the phase 1. This is taking 8 years to actually just get to the first phase, and then it ramps up over the course of the next decade and to basically becoming of scale. A similar thing here for Poseidon. Slightly earlier decision point, slightly a couple of years early, but in all cases, some of these projects are not going to be ready until right at the back end of this current decade. So, how do we summarize this? Well, the UK CCS efforts, they're not going to move the needle very much. It's got to be looked at as a global project. We only have one atmosphere. So, COP28 in Dubai in November 2023. Is it going to sort all this lot out? Probably not. Now, I'm not trying to claim the moral high ground here. I do heat my house. I drive a petrol car. I'm currently recording this overseas. I eat meat, organic Spanish tomatoes. I enjoy a Lagavulin. I think I mentioned that in a previous video. Still wearing clothes, not animal skins, and a lot of it is petroleum-based fabrics. Yeah, and I'm still breathing oxygen in and breathing carbon dioxide out. So, yeah, like everybody else, I'm contributing to greenhouse gases. So carbon capture and storage, it will happen in the UK, but when? Well, it's going to take a while. How much? Well, how much is going to be needed? It's likely to be an ongoing thing, but who's going to pay? How have you reduced your greenhouse gas emissions? Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back on our channel before too long. Bye for now.